Hey, you lovely lot, and welcome back to Crime Analyst and the Intelligence Cell. Now, this week, I'm going to share with you an update on Nicola Bulley's case. Now, I'm well aware that many of you have been asking for this update, so I believe in engagement and listening to what my viewers want and what my YouTubers want and my subs want, so this is the update. Now, there are 5 key areas that I'm going to update on. And before I do that, I just want to thank you all for subscribing. I want to thank you so much for commenting as well. I do try and get to your comments. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? And also some of you have gifted me, with a super thanks with some money, which is hugely appreciated. Thank you so much, because production does take time, money, effort, and energy. So that's hugely appreciated. So I'm going to dive in with Nicola Bulley's case. And also, actually, I should mention to you that I've just done an update on the Gabby Petito case on the Burn After Reading letter, and that's on Crime Analyst podcast. And if you are interested in the case, I highly recommend you listen to the episode. I've been waiting for that letter to be released, and finally it has been. And there's some really key information within it that I think is very instructive. Now, remember, this was the letter that Roberta Laundrie wrote to Brian Laundrie, and it's finally been handed over to the Petito family, and it's a key part of their lawsuit against the Laundries. So I know many of you have said that my analysis and my unraveling of the case on the podcast has really helped you understand the victimization and the psychology of victimization, as well as an abuser's behavior and mindset, and things like DARVO and PMS, poor me syndrome, and gaslighting, and Brian Laundrie's behavior and how he manipulated law enforcement. So I've unraveled all of that, and I know it's helped so many of you. So please go and check out that new episode. Okay, so let's get started on Nicola's case. So quite a few key and significant updates have happened. And I'm going to start, first of all, by just mentioning the fact that if you don't know the case, Nicola disappeared on the 27th of January, and she disappeared under very unusual circumstances in that her phone was found on the bench, still connected to a work call that she was on. She had taken her children to school. She'd then taken her dog for a walk, Willow, and the dog was found agitated but bone dry, wandering around. Her phone was found. She had made contact with various people on that walk, but also with a friend to organise a play date. And that friend said, and has spoken out recently in the media anonymously, but saying, well, why would you do that if you were going to take yourself off? And her parents have said that she'd organised a spa date with her mother. So all of these things tell us that she wasn't looking to take herself off. That's what I said. The police were saying, however, it's likely she's gone in the water. They weren't giving any further information about that. And then they had a press conference. They released some information to say that she was high risk and that she was vulnerable, but they wouldn't tell us how or why. And then they later released information saying that she had struggles with alcohol and was perimenopausal. And that felt very victim blamey. It felt sexist. The timing of it was very bizarre. And many of us felt deeply uncomfortable with that. And lots of people spoke out about it, including me, but also the Information Commissioner. Well, the ICO said that they would be asking Lancashire about that decision, and they have. And now they've reported back on it. So that's the first update. And I just want to share with you what was said, the statement that was put out. And yes, you can probably hear some noise in the background. I've got my golden doodle Beatrice with me. And also my little guy, Rafi, has just come back in. So you might hear him. And, that's part of being a mummy. That's my life. So I just want to share with you what was said. So the regulator's Deputy Commissioner for Regulatory Policy, Emma Keeney, said this: "We have now spoken with Lancashire Police to better understand the steps they took before releasing information. We heard in those conversations the challenging nature of considering whether and how to share personal information during fast-paced, important cases. We don't consider this case requires enforcement action, and we'll be able to provide further details around this decision following the inquest into Nicola Bulley's death." Okay, so that's important. Firstly, for me, it's about why they shared this information, and it's about the timing of them sharing this information. Now, like I've said in previous videos, and do go and check those videos out, this information would be far better shared at the start of the investigation when there was a chance of finding Nicola. But why release it at this time? And that for me is about, is it proportionate? What purpose does it serve? What was their aim and objective? So I'm curious to know what and why and how the Information Commissioner's Office, how they made this decision. And also I should say that this article with the findings came out on May the 9th. And then in the interesting timeline, and I am very interested in timelines, as you should be too, the second update relates to May the 11th, which was an article or a number of articles that appeared in the local media in Lancashire about Lancashire Police. And I just want to read to you the headline of one of those articles. It was actually in the Lancashire Post, and it was this was the headline. Lancashire Police promises it is a force you can trust in light of Nicola Bulley case and police scandals like Wayne Couzens and David Carrick. The second in command at Lancashire Police has assured the public that they are a force to be trusted in light of the criticism faced by wider policing this year. And the article goes on to say how much they should be trusted. And they should be trusted. So for me, and I'll just share my, thoughts just straight off the bat, it just felt like they were trying too hard, and the timing of it coming out, but also the fact that the article is sort of saying, well, I'm not a sexist, I'm not a racist, I'm not a misogynist, but it just feels it's trying too hard. This is with the backdrop of Baroness Louise Casey's review that found that the Metropolitan Police Service, in the wake of Sarah Everard's abduction, rape and murder by Wayne Couzens, of having reviewed the Met extensively, found that they were institutionally racist, sexist and misogynistic. So we can't ignore that. But also many other police officers being arrested and charged for heinous crimes. And just Google it, you'll see them in the media, and I'll show you some of them. But also Police Scotland, the chief recently coming out and saying that after a review of Police Scotland, that the force was racist and sexist and misogynist, and it was institutionally so. So I'm afraid you can't just come out and write an article and say, yeah, all of this is going on, but trust us because we're the police and because we tell you to. You have to work hard to earn respect. And so the policing culture, you've got to work harder. You can't just say, trust us because. So in fact, it works the other way right now. You're not being trusted because. So I think talking out and doing these articles, it just doesn't feel right and it doesn't feel good with this context that's ongoing. And the third update I want to share with you relates to the IOPC, their review. So the Independent Office for Police Conduct, where they released their findings. And I just want to share with you what Assistant Chief Constable Sam Mackenzie said. She said, the IOPC investigators focused on the actions of one officer and have now completed their investigation and found no misconduct or wrongdoing. So I'll just let that sink in. She said, whilst we do have some procedural learning, it is important to note that our attendance was of support of an ambulance deployment and that the officer dealt with Nicola with compassion and empathy, putting her care at the forefront of his decision-making on that day. It's important to stress that this IOPC investigation related solely to contact with Nicola on the 10th of January and not to the wider missing from home investigation. Our thoughts remain with Nicola's loved ones at this time. Okay, so that's important because this relates to January the 10th, to the police contact prior to Nicola going missing. So it's not the wider investigation. That's what College of Policing are doing. They're undertaking a review and we will know the findings of that in the autumn. But I do just want to pass comment on the IOPC because I have been part of their reviews. And I do just want to say that for me, when the review is conducted, and I've always voiced this at these meetings, it bears little resemblance to what actually went on. And families have expressed upset about that too. Look at Maria Stubbings's case, and I've talked about that on Crime Analyst. So often these reviews, and I'm just going to say it because you know I'm direct and I say what I think, they're toothless tigers. They don't really get to the heart of anything. Nothing happens in terms of accountability, and therefore nothing and no one changes. And that's hugely problematic. And as I always say, police marking their own homework, it just doesn't work. It will never work. So that leads me on to College of Policing, because their review is, we will know more and we will see the findings in the autumn of this year. But I do just want to underline the fact they were involved in the investigation. They were advising Lancashire Police. So again, I can't say from my own experience that they are independent. It just doesn't feel and look like independence, does it? So police marking their own homework just doesn't work. That's why I kept talking about an independent review, like an external review with other experts on the panel. So that's what we really need to see here if we want to get to critical learning. And then it's about the accountability. Well, what changes? Well, my last point relates to Andrew Snowden. And you'll remember he's the Police and Crime Commissioner. He's actually the outgoing Police and Crime Commissioner in Lancashire. But you might recall I've talked about him before, and he said that he had asked College of Policing to do this review because he wanted to find out how police lost control of the narrative. And as I said, that's not why you should be doing a review. Okay, so that was a big red flag for me. And the second thing is he's continuously said people shouldn't be speaking about the case, but yet here he is with all these articles that he's been doing, particularly of late. So one of them was that the police were right. They were right with their hypothesis, and it's TikTokers who are the problem, which seems a bizarre finding or conclusion to draw, seeing as we're still awaiting the coroner's inquest, which will take place on June 26th. And then he spoke out again just recently to the BBC, and he said that TikTokers are the problem and that TikTok should be reviewed, and that he doesn't want to preempt the review, the College of Policing review. But to me, that seems like exactly what he's doing. And I'm just going to call it out for what it is. So this from someone, as I said, who wanted to know why and how the police lost control of the narrative when everyone else wanted questions answered about police decision-making of the actual investigation and how and when Nicola died. So there seems to be this disconnect. And talking of disconnects and judgment about sharing information, whilst Nicola was missing, he was posting on his Twitter about what food he was eating and what wine he was drinking. And again, there seems to be this disconnect, seems to be tone deaf and not knowing when silence is golden. And I think a lot of this comes down to communication skills and knowing when to speak, who should be speaking and what they should be saying. And that comes back to experience and sage and sound judgment. And I just feel we're not getting that. So I'm going to leave it with those thoughts. And as always, uppermost in my mind is Nicola Bulley and her family, her two little girls and her friends and everybody who knew Nicola. I'm sure that this is not an easy process and that June 26th can't come soon enough. So I'm going to leave you all thinking about Nicola. Until next time, be curious. Ask questions and always trust your instincts.